The Avatar Aang movie has finally released after so much time, so many leaks, and just so much tragedy with this movie, honestly. And really, this Aang movie deserved so much better. But honestly, I loved it. I think the movie was great. It looked phenomenal, first of all. The plot was only just a bit above average. It had some problems, but the look was phenomenal. So let me know in the comments down below what you thought of the Avatar Aang movie. And now we're going to get into something which not many people know about. And that is that this movie actually had several deleted scenes which didn't make the cut for the final movie. So today we're going to break down every single deleted scene in the Avatar Aang movie, and I'm going to show you exactly what it would have looked like. So hit that subscribe button, leave a like down below, and let's get into it. Now, just in case you haven't read the expanded universe canon comics for Avatar, I'll give you a very quick recap of how Republic City formed, what Team Avatar was doing after the war, and basically what was able to set the stage for this movie. After the 100-Year War, Aang, Zuko, and Earth King Kuei eventually planned to return the Fire Nation colonies to the Earth Kingdom through the Harmony Restoration movement. But unfortunately, the oldest colony, Yu Dao, had existed for generations, and its Fire Nation and Earth Kingdom citizens had eventually merged and formed families together despite being on stolen Earth Kingdom land, according to the Earth Kingdom. This whole situation led to the Earth Kingdom trying to claim their territory back, but also the Fire Nation saying it's not right to bring these people back to the Fire Nation when they've now lived here for generations and married into the Earth Kingdom. So in a confrontation that almost restarted the 100-Year War, things came to a huge tension point, but it was eventually ended by Avatar Aang, and it was decided that a new, different nation, which would be open to all the benders of the world, would be formed, and the cities of Yu Dao and Cranefish Town, which experienced significant growth after the 100-Year War ended, would be merged into one new unified nation known as the United Republic, with the city of Republic City being its capital. And that's how we get to the state of things when the Avatar Aang movie begins, with Aang and Zuko having formed a brand new nation and being the heroes and champions of this new nation. So with that said, here is everything that didn't survive the main edit for the Avatar Aang movie. The first scene is the Republic City Parade. This is the big one, and it comes straight from the director herself, Lauren Montgomery. For this scene, she describes a sequence built around a parade celebrating Republic City, a huge civic festival where every culture in the new nation got its own float and its own moment. She called the scene absolutely beautiful, and she said it was stuffed with Easter eggs for Avatar fans and people who already know the franchise quite well. In this scene, King Kuei was in the crowd, who is obviously the famously sheltered Earth King who I mentioned earlier in the creation of Republic City. In the original series, he was being manipulated by his own advisors before finally taking charge of his own kingdom. And here that continues. He was his own man here. Also in the crowd was Suki marching with the Kyoshi warriors. This would have been absolutely incredible to see. And it would have solved one of the biggest problems that people had with the movie, which was, where is Suki? We only get to see her for like one frame in the closing credits of the movie, so people would have been so happy to see her there. And then comes the turn. The last figure in the parade who we see on his own float is actually Avatar Aang, riding on Appa as the float. In the parade, it's described that his sky bison is the closest thing that he has to a surviving piece of home. And the director explained that the whole sequence flips at that moment into a perspective shift, because what is joyous and what is supposed to be an incredible moment for all of the other nations in this little parade is actually an extremely isolating moment for Avatar Aang. All the other nations are out there celebrating their own culture in the streets, but his is simply absent because there is nothing left of it. And she said he never feels more alone in the entire film than he would have in that shot. That's a completely devastating piece of visual storytelling, which I'm really upset that we lost. But of course, they were fighting so many restrictions and so many problems with the movie that unfortunately it just had to be cut out. And then after that, we have the Suki and Kyoshi warriors scene. Michael Dante DiMartino went into this one already bracing for the reaction, saying outright that he knows fans are going to be upset. Suki is not in the movie in any meaningful sense. As we mentioned before, she only appears in a single shot at the very end. And for anyone who needs the context, Suki is the leader of the Kyoshi warriors, an all-female fighting force from Kyoshi Island who fight in the style of Avatar Kyoshi, using her famous fans, one of Aang's past lives. Now, she humbled Sokka early in the original series, but later became his partner and went on to play a genuinely central role in the back half of the show, including a stretch as a prisoner in the incredibly harsh Boiling Rock prison. And there's an entire comic series based on her time there, which we didn't actually get to see in the series. Definitely check that out, and if you want to see me cover it, hit that subscribe button and let me know in the comments. Now, Michael Dante DiMartino says they did write a version of the film where Suki had a real presence in the movie and was going to be basically a central main character, and that would put her in pretty much every scene in the movie. Unfortunately though, it came down to arithmetic, he says. The finished movie runs for about 85 minutes, and there were already already struggling to give the core cast enough room to breathe. So unfortunately, something had to go. And he basically decided that Suki was the one adding the least value to the plot, so unfortunately she had to go. Now, he does give an in-universe explanation for this, which is really cool, and he says the Kyoshi warriors are still out there, but he says during the time of the movie, they were off saving somebody else while all of this was happening, so even if Aang had asked them to join, they were simply too busy and were doing a very important mission, so they couldn't join him. I think that's a fine explanation. And he also said they do have their own comic series now, so we might see where exactly she was during this time in that comic series. And then after that, we have an interesting thing, which is half of Targa's fighting style was supposed to be different. So this one is less a single deleted scene and more of a whole bank of actions that never got animated. The director said something surprising about the process, which is that she kept watching cuts of the movie and thinking that there was not enough action in it, despite the film being absolutely packed with set pieces. The team worked with fight choreographer Alfred Singh, who Michael Dante DiMartino and Brian Konietzko had met through Netflix, and they went deep on the question of how each character's bending would have evolved in the decades since we last saw them in the original series. Targa got the most attention of anyone. He is an airbender from an era thousands of years before Aang, so his approach to the element is fundamentally different from his, and the director said that they had a long run of conversations about what that should mean on screen. Now, unfortunately, in her words, those ideas never made it onto the screen, and she specifically singled out Targa, saying that there were so many things they discussed and even tried to start animating, but eventually the story just couldn't support those, and they didn't have enough runtime to fit everything in. But hey, given that the movie gives us our first ever fully airbender on airbending master, Jewel, I think I'm pretty happy with how the action scenes were in this movie either way. And then we get to one of the most interesting ones, the story where Aang and Katara were starting a family. Now, this one could be the biggest cut scene of all, because this really, in a way, is the core story of Avatar. It is continuing the Air Nation legacy through Aang's children. For the article, Brian Konietzko revealed that the original concept of this movie was placed where the story is at the moment where Aang and Katara were just about to start their family, and fans of The Legend of Korra will know exactly where that leads, since their youngest son Tenzin ends up being the only airbending master alive by the time Korra arrives in Republic City. Unfortunately though, Michael says that they moved away from it later in development for what they called a lot of good reasons and landed on Aang in his mid-20s instead, because he just feels that they could tell a much better and more action-packed story with Aang being slightly younger. His reasoning though is pretty precise. He pointed out that this is an age where you look like an adult and carry adult responsibilities without having quite shed your adolescence yet, so you're not as wise as you will become in the next few years. And then it says it happens to be the exact same age when he and DiMartino created Avatar in the first place. It's also worth noting that Konietzko was initially reluctant to revisit these characters at all. He wanted them to have some peace and privacy and go about their lives without having the camera on them. And it was only when DiMartino pitched them at this specific age that that door finally opened for him creatively and he was willing to make this movie. So basically, if this movie got made with a more family drama kind of thing, I think it would be a much more interpersonal story dealing with the conflict of Tenzin being the last son born of Aang. Just imagine the pain and trauma of having the first two kids, still loving them of course, but knowing that they won't continue your lineage, so you must keep going. That must have been such a struggle for Aang and Katara's relationship, and there's a lot of story potential there, but I don't think it would have lent itself to the action-packed adventure story that we got with the Avatar Aang movie that we ended up getting. So every one of these cuts came down to the same 85 minutes of runtime. Unfortunately, if they had more time, I'm sure most of these scenes or most of these points would have been put back in the series. So tell me in the comments down below, did you enjoy the movie? What was your favorite and least favorite part of the movie? Let me know in the comments. And if you want to see plenty more Avatar The Last Airbender lore, check out the channel because I've got so many evergreen videos that you will love to see. Thanks so much for watching. If you made it this far, drop a thank Mr. Zuko in the comments down below, and I'll see you in the next one.